Out towards a town called Woodford Hollow and past Woodford Hollow. He dropped her about 3 miles short of Woodford Hollow, which is where the Long Trail starts. That's where it crosses Highway 9.
Did she know Lewis?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No, she was just
Truly
hitchhiking. Okay,
Yeah.
great. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, and apparently they didn't talk about much. She just said she wanted to ride out to Highway 9 and wanted to ask him, about the Long Trail, and that was about it. And of course, days later, he remembered giving her a ride. But, we'll find out about that. He actually had a house on Highway 9 about 2.5, 3 miles short of Woodford Hollow, so that's where, as far as he went, he dropped her off, and she headed back down the highway south, and maybe got a ride with somebody else, who knows. But she did make it to the trail. There were 4 guys who were leaving the trail at the time that Paula showed up, and she just asked, is this the way to the Long Trail? And they said, yeah, and they pointed the way. And so the last I saw of her, she was walking across a footbridge that led to the trail, and that was it. And, of course, several days later, they remembered her. And I should also mention that Paula was not outfitted for a major hike. She was wearing a coat that I think had a hood and kind of a furry...
A light winter jacket.
Yeah, not a real heavy-duty thing. She also had on jeans and tennis shoes. Again, not really great snow.
Did she even have water?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you would think she would have taken some water with her.
You would think.
That would make sense, yeah. And she had no gear, but not even water, no food, no extra clothes, no camping gear, nothing. I don't think she had a flashlight either. And, it gets dark that time of the year, that far north, right? It gets dark kind of early.
Yeah.
And she didn't apparently take too much money with her either. And she definitely left some behind at the school, like in a cash check from her parents, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, we've seen lots of these cases where people run off to start new lives and they leave bank accounts and all kinds of stuff behind.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There was one more sighting of Paula that I know about. I mean, there were a lot of sightings of Paula, but they were rather conjectural. It was all in the paper, and people thought, I saw somebody that looked kind of like her.
Similar to the
always
Indiana Dunes, or the Grimes sisters even.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So there were lots of sightings. This one looks pretty confirmed, though. There was a couple whose names elude me. I think their names are lost to the ages. In fact, there's several people in this case whose names are kind of lost to the ages.
It's a pretty common name.
Yeah. But they, lost to the ages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a nice name, actually. But they were about maybe 100 or so yards behind her and following her. And they said she went around a bend in the trail, and then when they rounded the bend a minute or two later, she was gone.
Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, in Oregon, it would be pretty easy to, say, if you had to use the bathroom, it's pretty easy to just hop off the trail and go a little ways, and your trail gets totally lost, and you would be totally lost. But I don't have I've never walked the Long Trail, so I don't know. I have a friend who just hiked the entire Appalachian Trail, and it looks like there are parts where it would be pretty easy to do something similar to that. But if there were snow on the ground, one would assume that they would have seen her tracks going off somewhere. So my first thought on something like that is she had to go pee.
That's entirely possible. Yeah. And as far as I know, it snowed later on. I don't know if it was that night or the next day, but as of that time, there was no snow on the ground.
Okay.
that I know
But
of.
it's also a deciduous forest, which means that there are leaves all over the ground. So that is going
Yeah,
to,
but it's not
that's
as...
going to mask a trail more than plain ground.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's
But it would be more open, so it'd be easier to see her if she were,
Unless she was
racing
hiding
off.
behind a tree.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I did it in 3rd grade all the time.
I did too. But I kind of think that you guys are, really distracting from the aliens abducted her kind of thing.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
so let's get back to Paula's story.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, just kidding. But
They also reported the bright light.
yeah,
No,
like
they
the
didn't.
flash,
Come
the
on.
gooey stuff, the
Dang it.
memory loss. Yeah.
Okay.
So Paula didn't come home that night, obviously. And next day, on Monday, December 2nd, her roommate noticed she was gone, and also, by the way, she didn't show up for classes. So back in those days, colleges were a little more strict about that kind of thing.
Some colleges
Next week,
still
took
are.
attendance.
Yeah, and so
College I went to was.
yeah. And so, so they noticed she wasn't there, and her roommate said she didn't come home, and the alarm goes up, and her parents are notified, and police are called. And, of course, nobody knew at this point that Paula had gone to the Long Trail. So at first they were searching the college campus and the surrounding areas. But then after the news hit the papers, Lewis Knapp, remember him, the guy that gave her a ride out there most of the way? Yeah, he remembered her, and so he came forward to police with his story and told them, hey, I gave her a ride to Highway 9, and she was really interested in hiking the Long Trail. So, and also, what's his name? The four guys that were coming out
went on their way
saw
out.
her on their way out. One of them actually worked at the local Bennington paper, and so he went to a reporter and told the reporter about this and what he had seen. So, and so obviously she had last been seen on the Long Trail, so everybody assumes she's out there lost, or maybe dead. But by this point, again, she hasn't been gone that long, and so there was still some hope of finding her alive. And so the search shifted to the Long Trail, and they searched not only the trail, but a swath of woods on either side of it. And a lot of people. I mean, they canceled classes at the college, so everybody at the college could turn out and help with the search. And like police and National Guard and everybody you can think of. I mean, hundreds of people were searching for her. And actually, there were so many people searching for her, I was kind of surprised none of the searchers got lost themselves.
That's true.
Well, you said they were carrying confetti. Did you say that yet?
Yeah, not yet, but soon.
But they were, Hansel and Greteling it. So,
yeah, they were.
It's
totally
pretty easy to
track
your way back if you've got something like that.
That's nice, unless you got somebody like Chubby going after you, picking up your confetti.
Well, the good thing about confetti is it's hard to get all of the pieces.
There's a lot of little pieces.
That's why you would do confetti, maybe.
Confetti makes sense, actually. But yeah, that's one of the ways they kept from going over the same ground again and again, is dropping confetti. Whenever you search the place, you drop a little confetti and just keep going. And also reports were coming in from other places. This was hit in the papers. I think it made the national news even. And there were reports from somebody as far away as Massachusetts. The waitress claimed to have served her in a diner.
Yeah.
Massachusetts isn't that far.
It's not. No, it's not. It's not hugely far away.
Especially if
For
she
the
accidentally
time,
went.
it's pretty far away, though.
Well, I mean, if she accidentally went the wrong way.
On the trail, you mean?
Yeah, if she walked south instead of north.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the people who said they saw her going on the trail and followed her on the trail were going in the northerly direction.
Yeah, but she could have walked north originally and then overshot
the road.
Yeah, like just walked for an hour or whatever and then walked back and totally missed where she should have popped off, and then just stumbles out of the forest a day later in Massachusetts and is just at this first. But you would think the waitress would say she looked horrible, and really needed help, and realized that she needed help. So I don't know.
Instead of kicking her out because she couldn't pay for the slice of pie.
Right.
Yeah, and apparently she was with a guy too.
Of course.
Yeah, and so
she was running off. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. Could be.
That guy was an alien.
Yeah, or that could be too. Was he bald? Wore a fedora? But I've been watching Fringe lately.
I was going to say, you must be watching Fringe.
Yeah, exactly. And there was one report of a suspicious character, a guy whose name I could never find. Were either of you able to find this guy's name?
Yeah, it was Lost to the Ages.
Yeah, another one of those.
I swear that I saw it in one place, but when I went looking back through it with what I'd read, I couldn't find it again.
Yeah, everywhere. I even found a fairly authoritative newspaper article from the local Bennington newspaper that was like one of those look back on years later and everything like that. And even that one didn't have a name for the guy. You would think of anybody, they would have had the name, right?
You would think anything at the time, but I think oftentimes when they do those retrospectives, they scrub names out.
Maybe they did. Maybe they figured it's no sense, stirring that stuff up or something. I don't know. Maybe his family owned the paper by that time. I don't know. But this guy was a lumberjack, apparently, at least I read in one place, and he lived kind of near the trail that Paula walked down, the Long Trail, and reportedly said to friends or acquaintances that he saw her walk by the trail. He'd been having an argument with his girlfriend. He storms off angry, and then he said he either went home, that's one version, or he got in his truck and followed her. His own accounts have varied, of course.
Of course.
Yeah. And he also supposedly told a few people that he knew where Paula was buried. But of course, later on, questioned by police, he said that was just idle talk. So, I don't know.
Okay, so, we're friends. And you're oftentimes pretty creepy, but you're welcome. Yeah, but I can't imagine anybody having that kind of sense of humor. They would be like, you know what? I'm gonna make a joke about knowing where this missing girl is buried.
Yeah,
it's weirdo behavior.
It's super weirdo behavior.
It is a little weirdo, but then again, you don't really know the context. It could have been threatened more than anything. You didn't have a clue what happened to her or anything, but he's threatening somebody and saying, "Hey, by the way, I know where she's buried."
That's true.
Words, I could murder you.
So I'm really this makes me think of another case. We've got a college-age girl who disappears, and it's in the Northeast, and the news media makes all kinds of hubbub about it. Like, I really think that this should have been covered by a sensationalist writer that we know of. Like, it's shocking to me that this hasn't happened.
Too early.
Oh, sorry.
Way too early.
Sorry.
Not yet. Yeah, he's going to run out of stuff to talk about, and then he's going to be off to this one. And they might be related, who knows? The police couldn't put anything on our lumberjacks, so that never went anywhere, and that's it. Paula's missing still. Wait, there was another one. A year before Paula disappeared, somebody else disappeared too.
What?
In the same area, fairly close by. Yeah. This is also out in the woods, not on a bus. But it's still a little strange. This guy's name was Mitty Rivers. That was his nickname, I assume.
It's the time.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, he was a hunt and fishing guide. 74 years old, but apparently he knew the local woods very, very well. So he wasn't the kind of guy that just wander out there and get lost. And if he had gotten lost, he would have known how to take care of himself.
Right.
Except for, I mean, you know, he was 74.
Yeah, could have had a heart attack.
In the 40s.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah. That's
okay.
Pretty
Just,
damn old.
You know,
1940s.
anyway,
yeah.
Continue.
But what happened to him was on November 12th, 1945, Mitty was guiding a group of 400 in the hills near Bennington. And they were heading back to their camp after what I assume was an unproductive day, because I have heard nobody mention transporting a deer carcass back to their camp with them.
True.
Triumph, yeah. And Mitty got out in front of the group and apparently out of their sight, and they never saw him again. The 400 eventually got back to camp. Mitty was not there. You know, made them all scratch their heads just a little bit, and he has never been heard from again.
Well, there's the whole shell casing thing.
Oh yeah, no, there was a huge search of the woods where he disappeared, but no trace of him was ever found except for a cartridge from his rifle that was found next to a stream. And I don't know what stream that was, and I'm not even 100% sure that it was even a cartridge from his rifle.
That's what I could never understand, was how they pinned it on his rifle.
Yeah.
I mean, also, just realistically, if he was hunting and fishing in that area for a long time, what's to say that wasn't from 3 days before?
Yeah, it's true that too.
You know?
But yeah, there's some cartridges that are just very, very popular. And and his might have been one of them. So it's hard to say that it was his even. But it was just like Paula. There was not a shred of torn clothing or a shoe or anything. They didn't find his rifle. And we've talked about a lot of disappearing people. And it seems like usually they find some little tiny trace or another, like an article of clothing, or maybe a year or two goes by and they find, like, you know, they find a bunch of their clothes, or they find a little backpack or a purse, or they find something. Nothing ever turned up at all.
Particularly when we're talking about those ones where we kind of say, okay, well, it could be a serial killer, but probably it was a bear. You know, they wandered off, and you know, some predator got them, and then you know, the clothes, because they're not going to eat the clothes.
Because the bear does not wear Prada.
No, well, sometimes.
The devil bear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, that's always so fascinating and frustrating to me when literally nothing shows up.
Absolutely not a clue. But yeah, so those three so far. So we talked about Mitty, Paula, and James Tedford. So that's the first three, and then. A year after James Tedford vanished, a couple of other people disappeared too. There was Paul Jepson, and I've seen this as Jepson, as a Jephson.
I have too.
Yeah, and
I've seen it both ways.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Jepson because I saw an article in a local paper that had his and his dad's name in there, and it was Jepson in there. Although, not that the newspapers
are going to get it right every time. Yeah. Anyway.
But anyway, we'll go with Jepson. He was age 8. He was from Shaftesbury, Vermont, which is about 6 miles north of Bennington, on Highway 7A, which, of course, you know, meant that, what's his name? James Tedford cruised right by there.
Woo!
Yeah, I know. Ooh, coincidence. Paul Jepson disappeared October 12th, 1950. And all these people disappeared in that kind of a narrow little window there between October 12th and December 1st.
They also supposedly all disappeared within an hour window during the day. Somewhere between 3 and 4 o'clock. I always see this sometimes. And it was always between 3 and 4 o'clock they disappeared.
Well, that is the oofing hour.
It is a few, but yeah, it's when the oofs are out, yeah. The accounts that I've heard of this, one I read that he disappeared from the family farm in Shaftesbury, and then another account that I read, his mother left him in the family truck while she went off to feed some hogs. which doesn't totally make sense, but whatever.
Well, actually, I think I can explain that.
Yeah.
So his family, one of the things his family did is they took care of a local dump. And if you think about the time and the area, the local dump was somebody that had extra space that happened to have a big hole in it that everybody could throw their garbage into.
Uh-huh.
And garbage tends to have food in it.
Yeah.
So you can have pigs, and the pigs will feed off of the trash.
Uh-huh.
But you
Sounds
still
good.
got to give them some real food.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they can't subsist on what they find in. I mean, it's not like hefty bags were around at the time, but they can't subsist on everything they're finding in the trash. So
Yeah.
you got to give them some real food. So that I think is why that's why I think it's two, because people read pigs and believe it's got to be a farm. And then people read the thing about being in the truck, and you'll see it. Well, they were at the dump. And I think they're actually one and the same.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, that makes sense totally. No, the part of it, I mean, even if they'd just gone off to say somebody was on vacation, she had to go by their farm real quick and feed the hogs. Mm-hmm. In the accounts that I've read about this, it took her like an hour to do this, which seems like kind of a long time to go feed the hogs.
Depends on how many hogs there are.
It could be that, or it could just be that was inaccurate and she was only gone for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
that's long enough for a kid to disappear.
I've had to take care of livestock, and you got to do the water, and you got to do the feed, and you got to clean out stalls, and that can take you some time.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, but also, I mean, he was 8, right?
Yeah.
He's old enough to help with some of that stuff.
That's why I'm surprised she didn't
So
take
if it
him
is
along.
this long endeavor where you are like mucking
True.
out pins and stuff like that, why would you not just have your 8-year-old son do the mucking while you're doing all the rest of the stuff, or like what?
True. Of course, there is also the fact that what do 8-year-old boys love to do? Jump in puddles of stuff. And when it's pig excrement, that stuff stinks to high heaven and doesn't wash out.
Well, that's why I tell the kid not to do that.
Oh, yeah, because boys listen so well.
I think 8 is older than you think it is, but we can go with that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's not either way, family farm or
I
feed the
still
hogs, it's not outrageous. But whatever happened, he either wandered off or maybe somebody snatched him right out of the truck. We don't really know. The police brought in bloodhounds. They were able to track him for a while, but the trail apparently ended at the edge of a highway. And that was that. There were, as always, some reported sightings of Paul, but nothing consistent, nothing ever panned out. There was one that I read about in one of the papers. Some woman spotted a boy just like him, but from the description, his father said, that's Paul Jepson's father said, he didn't believe it was his son.
And did you mention that he apparently was wearing a very distinctive red shirt at the time?
Yeah,
so-
either a red shirt or a red jacket.
Right,
Yeah.
much like, what's her name?
Yeah, Paula.
Paula,
Wellman.
thank you.
Yeah.
Paul and Paula, got it.
Exactly. And
You know, it's an easy target color.
no, it is. And it's great when you're looking for a body. Okay, so, and then one last disappearance, which was only 2 weeks later. That's October 28th, 1950. Max and Frida Langer of North Adams, Massachusetts, were camping in the Mount Pisgah area with Frida's cousin, Herbert Elsner. But first, before I go any further, I want to say this is the one that I think doesn't really fit with the other ones, even though it always seems to be included when you read about the Bennington Triangle. This took place in the Mount Pisgah area, as I said, and that's a long ways from Bennington. That's way north, up fairly close to the Kanaka-Stanley border. And so it's kind of outside the triangle. I think.
It doesn't have to be a perfectly shaped triangle.
Oh,
The
okay.
boundaries of this triangle can change.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll
Much
include it
like
then.
the Bermuda Triangle.
yeah.
They just keep getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it morphs to absorb whatever story you would like it to encompass.
Okay, all right. Well, in that case, cool. It's part of the triangle then. We'll include it.
Great.
Yeah, okay. So Frida Langer was 53. Her husband, Max, was 58. Max had a bad knee, so when Frida and Herbert decided they wanted to take a hike, Max decided to stay behind and camp because of that bad knee. And so Frida and Herbert headed out. But a little ways from camp, Frida slipped while crossing a creek, and I don't know whether they were just hopping rock to rock or walking across a log, whatever happened, she fell in and got wet. And so she decided to run back to camp, so she told Herbert to just continue on, that she was going to run back.
Yeah, it's
and
cold
change.
usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's late October. Of course, it's chilly out, and she was just going to run back, change into something dry. In one account that I read, she said she was taking a shortcut. And this is a little note to our listeners. Many a great adventure starts with the words, "Hey, let's take a shortcut."
I know a shorter way.
I know a good way. Yeah, that's right.
I know a
I've had few
shorter,
adventures
long
that
way.
Yeah, but whatever happened, I don't know. She left Herbert at about 3:50 p.m. Herbert eventually, she never saw her again. She never rejoined him. He came back to camp about 4:45, but Frida wasn't there. And according to her husband Max, she had never returned from the hike. And so, well, puzzling it all around, and they call the police. Another huge search is conducted. No trace of Frida was ever found, which makes it kind of similar to our other disappearances, which is why I see that some people, because it's so hinky, I mean, that she just disappears. But here's a guy that knows her. Here's camp right back here, and she just vanishes.
15-minute hike apart.
At the most, and she just just vanishes.
Poof.
Yeah, poof, like that, and leaves no trace. Huh. But it's also dissimilar in one big way, and that is that Frida's body was found about 6 months after she disappeared.
True, she's the only one.
She's the only one.
Actually, that's a lie, but...
And was she in good shape?
No, she was not. She had decomposed enough that they couldn't tell how she'd been killed. Yeah, or she'd died by natural causes.
Interesting.
I don't think it was natural causes, though, because the body was found in a spot that had been searched when they were searching for her originally. Yeah, so it looks like somebody came back and dumped the body there after the search was done.
We've got 4 of 5 bodies or people who were never seen again.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I'm sure that you came across this, Joe. I know that I want to say canonical. Is that the right term? The central core.
The canon, yeah.
The canon, the central core
I know
of this.
That there are other, murders and disappearances.
Yeah, I've seen upwards of 12 different ones that are attributed to this particular triangle.
Yeah, like there was that one that was very recent, like 2011. That kid with the weird name, Marble. What's his Marble Arvidsson?
Something. There's
Marble Arvidsson.
But there was a hunter in the 30s who, quote unquote, disappeared out of sight of his party and then was found under a tree, shot days later. Like there's a whole series of these kinds of weird occurrences in this whole area. So it really depends on which version and which assemblage of articles you read.
Yeah, I know. I read another one that I didn't include it with this one because there's absolutely nothing out there about it except a group of 300s vanished, I believe, in 1946.
I think I've seen that one as well, yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. That's the only thing there is about it. So who knows if that's anything related to truth or not. I mean, so I didn't include that one. But yeah, apparently a lot of people disappeared or mysteriously were murdered or whatever. But these are, like you said, the 5 tried and true, absolutely for sure, sort of, we think, ones. Before we go to theories, let's take a quick break.
The walls are wire, the foundation is stone. It really shouldn't be that hard to secure. Yet, despite all this, he gets in week after week and terrorizes all the ladies. Woken up from their slumber, they scream and run blindly into the dark, hoping against hope that they will be spared. Sadly, one of them won't make it, and her blood will stain the coop floor. Though your house is much more sturdy, it needs protection just as much. You don't have to worry when you've got SimpliSafe Home Security. It's a nice extra layer of protection to know that SimpliSafe is there. Because thanks to its arsenal of sensors intended to protect your entire home and keep your family safe, SimpliSafe offers an extra layer of protection that will put your mind at ease. Just recently, SimpliSafe even released a brand new high-definition security camera that connects to your security system and your smartphone. That way, you can see everything that's going on in your home, no matter where you are. No more wondering. Best of all, SimpliSafe got rid of everything that makes most home security systems such a pain. No long-term contracts, no hidden fees, and they won't gouge you. And it's just $15 a month. That's 3 times less what other companies charge. So go check out the new camera today. You'll get an exclusive 10% discount when you go to simplisafe.com/criminal. That's simplisafe.com/criminal. Because while you aren't a chicken, the threat of the fox is all too real.
And we are back. Hey, well, hope that was refreshing for you guys. It was for me.
Well, we went and had brunch at that place that Devin was talking
Blue
about.
Ben.
They look quite nice.
Ooh, yeah, those jukeboxes are pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, Blue Ben.
Though? Really?
Where are we at here? Oh, aliens. Alien abduction. Now, I know as a noted ufologist, I know Devin wanted to weigh in on the alien thing.
It was obviously aliens.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, even the most recent one of, what's her name?
His name?
No, her name.
Oh,
Mara?
Frida?
Frida.
Oh, Frida.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the aliens just abducted her and did their tests and then dropped her in the exact same spot. Never mind, they accidentally got, the days wrong.
And the
or
elevation
whatever.
wrong?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, they just teleported her back and oopsie. Yeah,
It's close enough.
Dropped her 1,000 feet.
Close enough for
above the
government work,
ground.
man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they've come hundreds of thousands of light years.
I know. What's 1,000 feet?
I mean, really?
Really? Yeah,
What
I know.
is?
That's a
Yeah.
good point.
1,000 feet. That's what it is.
Well, to them, that's, like a millimeter.
If they're giants.
No, for distance. I mean, like, whatever. It's fine. It's easy. I mean, who can be trusted to know exactly? Sometimes you park your car and then you think you're exactly where you parked your car, but you're actually like 5 blocks off.
True.
So,
A little bit of the wrong place in the map. They might have
Okay.
fat fingers. I don't know.
I'll give you that.
it's true. That's,
I mean, it's the
To a
only.
degree.
I'm not going to argue this too hard because I like being an ufologist. There's no real evidence here. There's no sightings that correspond with any of these
no
things.
burn marks on the
No,
ground.
yeah, none of that. But I will say that it would nicely round out these disappearances. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
most of these people disappeared with literally no hide nor hair
Yeah.
of them, right? I mean, they're just gone, like poof.
I know.
And what else can do that other than weird magician guys?
Or really skilled serial killers, but I'm
Yeah.
getting ahead of myself here.
Or made up histories. But
Yeah.
I think the aliens theory is not a bad one overall with this one. I mean,
No.
again, it is troubling. Broad daylight, right? That's not really usually when the aliens come to abduct people, and then the lack of any kind of sightings or strange noises or anything like that. But overall, it's not
Well,
the worst.
the next one might explain that, though. Biggie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be Bigfoot. Apparently
I don't
they
think
have,
so, though. I mean, we're talking, especially with Frida again, right? We're talking, 15 minutes walk. You'd hear Bigfoot. Either of those guys would have heard Bigfoot.
Listen, nobody ever hears Bigfoot.
Yeah, but
they can't
no.
even get his
Hell.
picture.
Everybody hears Bigfoot, they just can't get his picture. That's the trick.
Oh, okay.
They would have said, and there was loud rustling and weird grunting noises.
Unless he was having a quiet day.
Have you ever heard
And
of
I
Bigfoot?
really, well, I'm not even
Having
gonna.
a quiet
I think that he does that sort of noise making thing, kind of the way a rattler wants to scare away. And
You're probably right.
Yeah.
But I also,
stealthy.
Bigfoot is a gentle giant. He's
Not
caring.
necessarily.
Not according to the story that comes out from, I think it was the late 1800s in this area. Supposedly there was a carriage that, team of horses is drawn upon, and it's a terrible storm, and they stop. And the guy's trying to see ahead, and he hears something outside, and the horses are freaking out. All the people get out of the carriage, at which point something comes out of the woods and beats against the side of the carriage, eventually knocking it over and scaring the holy hell out of the horses. It was 8 foot tall with I think it had glowing red eyes. I might be wrong on that.
That was Mothman.
No, not Mothman.
Bigfoot doesn't have glowing eyes.
But the point is, 8 foot tall and hairy and angry
Bear.
does sound like
I'm thinking bear.
Bigfoot.
Bear. Bigfoot's never angry. Bears are angry often.
Listen, I've met a lot of bears, and they are generally not angry men.
But some of them have very big feet.
True.
All right, there you go. But there are local legends. They're very similar to our Sasquatch legends here in the Northwest of a Bigfoot-like creature. And so that's among the Indians, the local Indians. So what do you guys think about Bigfoot as a theory?
No.
No.
You don't think so?
I like aliens way more than Bigfoot.
Okay.
For this I'm sorry, I like Bigfoot, I love you. But I think the
She just
aliens
likes
did
aliens
this one.
more. Yeah, I'm sure you feel better, don't you, Bigfoot? No, I'm sure a lot. Where are we at next? Next theory, legendary rocks. This is according to local Indians, and I forget what these things were called by the Indians. I've seen the name, but it's unpronounceable. But these, apparently, if you step on these rocks, they can just open up and swallow you up.
I've seen those.
Yeah, have you?
It sounds like something out of Stargate.
Oh, really? I haven't watched that much Stargate, so I don't know. But yeah, okay, so that's a possibility. Although there's some of these Indian legends, you kind of wonder if sometimes they're pulling the white man's leg just a little bit.
Yeah.
So here's the problem with the whole Indian legend thing.
Yeah.
That didn't show up until the very early 80s. That there was the whole... Because the Indian legend is not only the rocks, There's the Indian legend that the local indigenous people wouldn't go into those mountains because for fear of the things that were there, and they would only bury their dead there, and yada yada yada. That only came about in the 80s.
I believe it.
But there is actually some information that people say